If you're thinking about moving to Olathe, Kansas in 2025, this is the video you have to see before you decide to buy or build a home. We're going to break down what it actually feels like, how it compares to other Kansas City suburbs, and what some people get wrong that ends up costing tens of thousands of dollars or leads them to the wrong neighborhood altogether. You stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to share the one reason why so many people that originally cross Olathe off of their list end up moving there anyway. And without further ado, part number one, where is Olathe, Kansas? As you can see on the map, it is located in the southwest corner of the metro area. Falls in Johnson County, which is one of the highest rated counties, not just here in Kansas City, but across the entire country. And there are really three things that make Olathe unique. And the first one, if you look at the map, you'll see some other suburbs like Prairie Village, Fairway, Overland Park, Mission, Merriam. These are smaller suburbs where if you moved there, they're not self-contained cities where you could do all of your shopping, restaurants, entertainment, going to the gym, the grocery store, etc., all in that one spot. You'd have to jump around to other suburbs. Olathe is big enough to the point where you could move there and you'd never have to leave. Although a lot of residents do, they'll spend some time in Lenexa, they'll spend some time in Overland Park, potentially even downtown Kansas City. The second major benefit is commute times. You're only about 20 to 25 minutes away from downtown Kansas City, about 40 minutes from the airport. You've got pretty good highway access depending on which of the three different areas of Olathe that you might be in. But one thing that you'll see come up, and a lot of locals talk about this, you'll see the reviews, maybe you talk to locals when you're deciding where to live in Kansas City, a lot of them will say, especially if they've been here for a long time, that Olathe is just too far west, it's too far south, it's outside, it's too far away. And what I've learned, because I used to think the same thing, what I've learned after working with people who are moving from larger metropolitan areas, think like a Dallas, Chicago, Seattle, etc., where your commute very well could be 40 minutes, an hour and 30. This is the best of both worlds, where you're secluded in the suburb, you've got the 20 to 25 minute access to downtown, very easy to get around the area. The last thing is, I know Olathe looks like a big city. It is one of the largest, it's the fourth largest in the metro area, but it is far from one size fits all. In fact, there are really three different areas that you have to know that all have different home prices, school districts, and completely different feels from one another. The first area is actually downtown Olathe, and I'm going to put this picture on the screen. It's a map that shows the average age of homes across the Kansas City metro area. And what you'll notice, if you really look at Olathe, you're going to find a lot of orange and red right in the middle of the city, and then it's surrounded by a bunch of green around there. And what that signals, the orange and red, those are some older homes. The green are newer homes. And you can see that one part of Olathe is almost as old as like the core Kansas City, Missouri proper, and then everything else around it is pretty new compared to the rest of the metro area. And the reason for this, and this has a lot to do, it's got a major impact on everything else we're going to talk about in this video. Major reason for it is the railroad actually splits Olathe into two different parts. And originally, when Olathe started as a city, it actually predates the existence of the state of Kansas. Much of this growth was because of the railroad, and that's why you see the older homes there. But around the 1950s, the mid-1900s, the highway connects Olathe to Kansas City, and the population starts growing very quickly. So right now in downtown Olathe, it's a little bit more walkable because car reliance wasn't a big deal back in that time. The homes are a little bit smaller. You'll find the county courthouse right there. There's been a ton of redevelopment, revitalization, which you're going to talk about later on in the video. And the trains do exist. So some delays in your day-to-day life become inevitable. But that leads us to the second major part of Olathe, which is Western Olathe. I kind of refer to this as anything west of the railroad tracks. You're going to have to cross those if you want to go to other parts of Johnson County, other parts of Kansas City. So just keep that in mind. But one thing that makes this part of Olathe really different is you've got this hilly terrain, lots of treetops, lots of elevation changes. I would say this is even true many parts of Western Lenexa, Western Shawnee. It is absolutely beautiful. If you're into nature, this is a great area to look at. You've got Lake Olathe, which has acres and acres of green space, trails. You've got huge open water space. You've also got a swim beach where they do rentals, and they've got really cool things that go on during the summer. You've also got the Ernie Miller Nature Center right there, which has a ton of trails. But this whole area is very scenic. You'll see a mix of some brand new construction homes. You'll also see some homes that were built in the later half of the 1900s. But again, this whole area very new in the context of all of Kansas City and plenty of room to continue developing. The third and final area you have to know in Olathe is what I call South Olathe. It's really just everything southeast of the railroad. So in the northern part of that, you're going to find some homes that were built in the late 90s, the early 2000s. They're going to be a little bit smaller, usually 2-car garages around that time. You'll find some HOAs, although they're not going to have amenities or anything like that. Usually they're just going to be lower cost. They're going to handle things like trash and recycling. And then as you get further and further south, that's where you see the major growth corridor in Johnson County. This is what I call the New Homes Corridor. It stretches all the way from South Olathe through Overland Park and up until State Line. And this is where all of the development is heading. But compared to Western Olathe, that's hilly, you've got the treetops, the very scenic views. You got some of that in South Olathe, but it's much more flat. The communities are much more planned out. They're larger neighborhoods. They're brand new construction homes. This is where the lion's share of development is. It's around Heritage Park, which that's another good one. It's got acres and acres of green space, trails. It's got disc golf. It's got soccer fields, football fields, a lake in it. You've also got a dog park. This is where all of the growth is happening. And it also has a lot of different school boundaries that we're going to break down here in a second. But the major takeaway of this section is Olathe is not just one big one-size-fits-all city. It has many different parts that feel like completely separate towns, all wrapped into that one umbrella. And that leads us to part number 2, which is who Olathe is for, and also who it's not for. Because now that you've got the context, I want to make sure we're not wasting any time here. I know it's a big area. A lot of people are moving there. There's a lot of things that make it desirable, but it is certainly not for everyone. And that is especially true for 3 different reasons. I think one, if you really want the hustle and bustle, more centrally located lifestyle in like downtown Kansas City or some more walkable neighborhoods, you might find a little bit of that near downtown Olathe, but it's being redeveloped and it's kind of apples and oranges compared to neighborhoods like a Waldo or Brookside in Kansas City, Missouri. So if you hate the suburbs, I would not move to Olathe, Kansas, and I would probably start looking at some of those areas that are more centrally located. I think the second is if you're looking for more of a small town feel, there are some parts of Olathe that are just a little bit further out there. They feel more sparse, suburban, but they're certainly not like a small town feel. In fact, if that's what you're looking for, given the growth rate and the trajectory of Olathe, if you're looking for a true small town feel, I'd be looking at some suburbs outside of it, like a Spring Hill, a Gardner, Kansas, a DeSoto, Kansas. And we're gonna be talking about some of those here later on in the video as well. And then finally, the third reason that I probably wouldn't move to Olathe if you fit into this category, if you don't like planned out neighborhoods, if you don't like HOAs, I'm not saying all of Olathe has them. There are certainly some neighborhoods that don't fall in HOAs. There are a lot of them that will fall in HOAs, but they don't like regulate quite a bit. It's just trash, recycle, etc. But a lot of the homes there are new in the context of the entire Kansas City metro area. I'm going to reference that map one more time since most of the housing stock is post-1990s, early 2000s, and up until present day, and they have plenty of room to continue growing. If you're not looking for that type of lifestyle, it might not be a good fit. But if you can survive those 3 things, I think Olathe could be a good fit for the following reasons. The first one, I've had a lot of clients reach out that had other suburbs at the top of their list, and they might have thought about Olathe, but they had some apprehension until they saw the home prices. And this is true pre-existing homes, it's true of brand new construction homes. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a $50,000 to $80,000 price difference between the homes in Olathe, some of those surrounding suburbs, no matter which direction you go, older home or brand new home. I think the second major one is it checks a lot of boxes that I know a lot of you are looking for. The schools, it's got the amenities, it's got the parks, it's got the stability. It also has the future future anticipated growth factor, which is really big. We've got a whole section based on the developments that are all over the city right now. But any questions, buying, building a home in the Kansas City suburbs, this is what I do. I love helping people find the right area. I know there are a lot of things to consider. Kansas City is not the easiest area to understand, and whether Olathe is it or not, I'd love to make sure we make all of this information specific to you so you get the best value possible. So give me a phone call, text message, email. Love to set you up for success. With that said, we're going to move on to part number 3, which is all about the school districts in Olathe. Now, depending on why you're thinking of moving to Kansas City, schools could either be a really big motivating factor or you might not care about them at all. But one thing that really matters in the context of Kansas City, and especially Olathe, is that whether or not you care about the schools, they will impact your property taxes, the home prices you pay, and especially appreciation. And the school boundaries are anything but simple. So there are 4 major districts. You can see all of them on the map. The biggest one is the Olathe School District. Not all of the suburbs in Johnson County have their own dedicated school district, but Olathe is one of them. It covers most of the city. It's consistently ranked, according to niche.com, as one of the highest in not just the metro area, but also in Johnson County area. One thing that makes it unique, they've got a lot of different elementary schools, middle schools, high schools that service all different parts of the city. They also have what's called the 21st Century Program. And I'm going to put a picture on the screen right here. My understanding of this is when kids get to middle school around 8th grade, they have the opportunity to apply for a specialized academy. And each of the different high schools has different specialties. So you have the option to go into these, anything from like sports science to psychology to business. I think it offers an interesting form of specialized education that I certainly wish I had when I was in high school. And that might have made picking a major in college a little easier. The second major district is actually in South Olathe. This is where you'll find a lot of new construction homes. It's the Spring Hill School District. It's a smaller one. They're continuing to build new schools every few years, and that's because there is a ton of growth in this area. I'll put the rating according to niche.com on the screen. Just know that this is changing and evolving over time because of the influx, because of the amount of new homes hitting the market, all of which we're going to get to. The third one, this is a smaller one. It's in the northwest corner of the city. It's the DeSoto School District. It's actually rated as the second best on niche.com, second to Blue Valley, which we're going to get to in a second. This one really covers some parts of northwest Olathe. So like Cedar Creek, one of the largest neighborhoods, one of the largest master plan communities there. Some pockets of it fall into that school district, but DeSoto as an area is a little bit more rural, spread out. That's one of the ones we referenced in the previous part of the video. It's kind of what you can expect there. The final thing is the Blue Valley School District. This is a big one because according to niche.com, it's rated as one of the best in Johnson County, the best in Kansas City. It also happens to be nationally ranked as well. There are some pockets, some neighborhoods in Olathe that do fall into this district. Why that matters is because you'll notice the competition for those homes, the prices for those homes tend to be a little bit more than what you'd see in other parts of the city. But the one piece of advice is do not look at just the ratings, just the numbers online. I think the same thing that happens when you decide to purchase a home, it's more about the feeling than what it looks like on paper. And that could not be more true of the schools as well. So see if you can look at reviews online, talk to some of the parents that have kids enrolled there, talk to some of the administrators, and then go ahead and tour some of those schools, and we can reverse engineer the home process and the home search around what you decide. Moving on to part number 4, one of the reasons some of those districts are growing very quickly has to do with Olathe's booming economy. And it's not just a bunch of development, it's not just a bunch of people moving there, it's actually home to some of the largest employers in Johnson County. Here's a quick list. There are plenty more than this, but here's some of the big ones. You've got Garmin International, their headquarters, their campus is there. You've got the Olathe Medical Center. I'll put a picture on the screen right here. They recently merged with the KU Health System. So we've had clients that are moving to the area looking for nursing jobs and being located there. That's been very convenient. Third is you've got the Olathe School District. They're a huge employer in the area. Walmart just opened, I'll put an article on the screen, a beef packing facility. We've had people move into town specifically for those jobs that they've brought, which is why the courthouse, the Johnson County Courthouse, is actually in downtown Olathe, is a huge, huge employer. But it's not just the jobs, it's also the development. And I've got another snapshot here, but it's far from the full list because the city is huge. There's a lot happening. Here's some big ones you might want to know about. The first one is actually not in the city of Olathe, it's in a surrounding city called DeSoto. And I know we brought it up a couple times, but there's a Panasonic battery plant being developed. It's like a $4 billion development, over 4,000 jobs, and there are people across the country, also local, that are moving to this area specifically for that reason. So if you look at the map, that whole western flank of Johnson County, so Olathe, you've got Lenexa, Shawnee, etc., that's going to see a lot of spillover growth as a result. The second major one is downtown Olathe. They just renovated the courthouse, the library, park there. You've also got some new shopping, entertainment coming. They've got 3 brand new restaurants coming in what's called the County Square Commons. It's anticipated for 2026. Another big one is called the Gateway Star Bond District. It's a $320 million development that includes an 11-acre amusement park, a 5,500 person arena, which is a big deal, and the goal is to have all of that done by the World Cup, which is another big deal. So again, it's not just speculative growth, it's actual tangible projects happening right now. And there are plenty more where those came from. But the real big impact, and why you need to know about this, is because they will certainly have an impact on home prices. And that brings us to part number 5, which is home prices in Olathe. And we mentioned this in the second part of the video. This is a big reason why people end up moving to Olathe, even if it's not at the top of their list, why they end up circling back. The home prices are simply very competitive for Johnson County as a whole. And the differences can be around $50,000 to $80,000. Just take a look at this chart. You can see Olathe, it's closer to the bottom, and this is just for pre-existing homes. So I've excluded new construction. It's a different market. We're going to handle that in the next section of the video. So just pre-existing homes, $401,000 median price for all the sales over the last 12 months. If you look at Olathe's neighbor to the north, Lenexa, you can see they come in at $452,000, $50,000 more. If you look at Overland Park, the neighbor to the east, you can see it comes in at $480,000. And that is a big chunk of change. And it's not like the quality, the size, there might be some difference, but it's very minimal depending on the part of Olathe that we're talking about. But overall, that is a massive difference, especially with some of today's mortgage rates. But where it gets really interesting is how competitive each of these areas are. So if you look at that second column, the days to sell, in Olathe, we've got 4 days between when a property's listed and when it goes under contract. So what that looks like, they're going on the market on like a Thursday, Friday. They're under contract, most of them, around a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Not all the properties are going like that, but a good number of them. And that's some of the most competitive that you see on that entire chart. So yes, we are seeing for some properties over the asking price, multiple offers, waiving inspections. It can be competitive because there's a lot of growth, a lot of people moving to Olathe, but we still have a housing shortage. There are not enough homes to go around, and that's what's driving the increase in home prices. But it all depends on which part of Olathe you're looking for, whether you go after a pre-existing home or brand new construction. And part number 6 is the pros and cons of new construction homes in Olathe. The reason this matters is because Olathe has more options for new homes than any other suburb in Johnson County, in this corner of the Kansas City metro area. And if you're looking for homes between the 500s, 700s, and all the way up, this could have a massive impact on your home search. I'll put a similar chart on the screen. This time we've got some more suburbs, just to give you a little bit more context here. You can see Olathe, still some pretty competitive prices. Yes, they're more than pre-existing, but this is just new construction. Median price of around $656,000 over the last 12 months. If we do that same comparison we did for pre-existing homes, so we look at Lenexa to the north, $745,000, $80,000, $90,000 price difference there. If we look at Overland Park, you're at $790,000. So a massive difference, very competitive prices, even when it comes to new construction. But I want to draw your attention to that second column, which is the number of new listings on the market. You can see that Olathe is in the lead at 363. The runner-up would be Overland Park at 301, and this is a big deal. So when we get to the pros and cons, first thing that we've got to call the elephant out in the room here. There's a lot of competition over pre-existing homes right now. Some of those properties, there are bidding wars. Some of them, they're going in 4 days. Some of them, people are waiving inspections. When it comes to new construction, knock on wood for me, I've never been in a bidding war. most of the time we end up negotiating credits or additional upgrades or other things. And that's especially true in Olathe because there are so many options and not everybody knows how to navigate new construction or that those options exist in the first place. So instead of, fighting over a quick tight timeline, not being able to look at your options, having to make a decision in one weekend. Oftentimes with new construction, you get to take your time, you can look at your options, and God forbid, it's really rare, but let's say it happens, let's say one of them sells and that takes an option off the board. You have hundreds of others that you can look at as well. And the major reason this matters, especially if you're relocating from out of state, is because your ability to control your timeline, have some breathing room, make sure you're making the right choice, not shooting from the hip, that has a massive impact on your bottom line, especially when you're selling a home in your current state and in the process of buying one here in Kansas City. And it can amount to tens of thousands of dollars, if not upwards of six figures. Now, it's certainly not without its cons. We're going to get to those. But the second major pro, the new construction homes in Olathe, they tend to be bigger. Average square footage for a pre-existing home is around 2,400 square feet at that $400,000 price point. Some of those homes, they might be fully capped out. They might already have as much finished space as they can accommodate. But with new construction, the average square footage is around 2,800 to 2,900. A lot of the time for a 2-story, 1.5-story, that basement's not going to be finished. So you still have room to expand down and add square footage over time if you're looking for a bigger house. You're also going to have more modern layouts. You're going to have a little bit more work from home accommodations, etc. The third major one is you have a ton of communities to choose from, more in the city of Olathe than anywhere else in Johnson County. We're going to get to those in the next part of the video. And then finally, you have more room to negotiate. More options means you inevitably get more value, especially when the flip side of this would be competing over a pre-existing home unless you know where to look. But new construction doesn't always make sense. And a couple of the cons, not just about new homes, but specific to Olathe. One, the new homes you will find, they're going to be further south or they're going to be further west. If you do find some that are kind of in the middle of Olathe, usually the land value is more expensive and you're going to see that reflected in the prices. The second big one, the price point as a whole is just going to be higher. It could make sense to you, but new construction does not make sense at all price points. Just because you can buy a new construction home for $500,000 doesn't mean you're going to get more value than a pre-existing home at that same price. So you still have to stress test it. And then third, mature landscaping. I know it's a big deal to a lot of you. You might see this in new home communities in Western Olathe. Put some drone footage on the screen right here of some that we've toured that are just beautiful. They're scenic. You got the elevation changes, the treetops, etc. But this is a rarity. It's not necessarily always going to be the case, especially if you look at South Olathe. But some of those pre-existing neighborhoods, you're going to find the mature landscaping, the mature trees, etc. As promised, number 7 in the video is new home communities in Olathe. You've got so many to choose from. And if you're leaning towards new construction, one of the hardest things, one of my pet peeves is if you go on Zillow, any of the home search sites, no one has a complete list of all the communities. And I've got a project I'm working on to hopefully fix that, but I did want to list some here for you if you are interested in new construction. So one of the largest ones, it's in Western Olathe. It's one of the largest master plan communities in the city, in the county, potentially the entire metro area. It's called Cedar Creek, and it's more than just a neighborhood. It's like a collection of neighborhoods that feel like its own private city. And that's because they have so many different homes. They've been building there for decades. You'll see some pre-existing homes go on the market there, and you'll also see some new construction. The new homes, they start anywhere in the 800s and go all the way up to the multi-million-dollar price point. It is built around the Shadow Glen golf course, so some of those older neighborhoods, they're built around a lake. It's absolutely scenic. But when it comes to these new home communities in Western Olathe, there are quite a few of them, but they're much smaller. They're not as big as some of the ones you'll see in South Olathe. So feel free, if you like that, the idea of all of the elevation changes, the treetops, etc., feel free to reach out and I can get you more of that information. But moving on to South Olathe, this is really where you're going to see the lion's share of new development. This is what I call the new homes corridor. We mentioned it earlier. It stretches all the way from South Olathe through Overland Park all the way up until State Line. This is where you're going to find some communities like Boulder Creek and Boulder Hills, which are just west of Heritage Park. They're close to walking trails, top schools. They are established communities, meaning they're mostly built out. They have amenities in. Boulder Creek, it has a future phase of single family homes left, but both of them also have villa options as well. The prices start in the mid 500,000s all the way up to $800,000. We've done a couple of videos on those, which I'll leave linked down in the description. Another one, it's brand new. It's a Rod Rock community. They're one of the larger developers here in Johnson County. It's called Parkside Reserve. It's right across the street from Heritage Park. Amenities are coming within the next year or two. They have a lot of move-in ready and under construction homes right now, as well as some tree-lined lots, which again, in this part of Olathe tend to be a little more rare. The prices around the 700s go all the way up to $900,000 or more. That's another video that we did previously, and I'll leave it linked down in the description. A big one in this part of town is the Stonebridge communities. This is another one developed by Rod Rock. It's like a collection of 5, 6, they might even be up to 7 different communities at this point, but it is huge. They've got 4 different pools, clubhouse, they've got a workout facility, a gym, parks, trails, everything that you could imagine in a master planned community. I had a client recently purchase a home there, and for the price, it was in like the mid 500s. It was an insane amount of value. You got multiple different builders to choose from. We just did a video on their most recent edition, which is called Stonebridge South. The prices in the Stonebridge communities start in the mid 500s. They go all the way up to over $800,000 or more. And then the last one I want to mention in this video, there are plenty more where that came from, but the last big one is Heritage Ranch. This is a brand new one. They're at ground stage with the first homes going up as we speak. The reason that I'm bringing this up, the reason it's in the video, is because all of those communities that we mentioned, aside from Cedar Creek, they fall in the Spring Hill School District. Heritage Ranch is one of the last remaining areas, the last remaining communities of new homes that actually falls in the Olathe School District, and it's still in South Olathe. They'll have single family homes as well as maintenance provided villas. The prices are anywhere from the 500,000s all the way up to $2 million plus. For the villas, you're looking at the upper 400s and up. But not all of the communities are the same. They all have differences. Some of them may have special assessments. Some of them may have higher lot prices. Some of them may have higher site costs, all of which impact your bottom line and have huge impacts on the price. So any questions, buying, building a new construction home, make sure to reach out. We'd love to make sure you get the most value possible, no matter which direction you go, whether it's a pre-existing home or a brand new one. But we're gonna move on to the final part of the video. I promised in the beginning of it that I would explain why so many people who originally cross Olathe off of their list altogether end up choosing to buy or build a home there anyway. And I think it's for a collection of different reasons. Sometimes it's a combination of these, but one, you're going to get some more house for your money, whether it's an older home or a brand new home. You saw the numbers, but once you see it in real life, it beats whatever data that I showed you. You know, we saw a $50,000 to $80,000 price difference on the low end, but in real life, you're going to see a difference in the age of homes, right? Just because of most of this city, most of the housing stock, a little bit newer compared to the rest of the metro area. That has a big difference, not just on your day-to-day life, but also the amount of money you pay every single month on your mortgage or for the price of that house. I think the second one is you get a lot of variety when it comes to the different school districts, the different parts of town. They check a lot of boxes, but without the premium of some of those surrounding suburbs like at Overland Park, Lenexa, etc. The third one, I think you've got a lot of really good options. It's not just the 3 different areas of Olathe, but a good mix of both pre-existing as well as brand new construction homes, and especially if you're after new construction, more options than anywhere else in this corner of Kansas City. And then finally, it's stable. It's not like a brand new suburb. It's been around for a while. It's pretty big. It's a self-contained city with a ton of future growth potential. Let me know down in the comments which part of Olathe seems like it resonates most with you. Feel free to reach out. Any questions buying, building a home in the Kansas City suburbs. We'd love to make this all specific to you. Make sure you find the right area and also have the right areas to compare those to. But with that said, I'm going to put one video right here. This is the video YouTube thinks you would enjoy the most. And this video actually compares the city of Olathe to its next door neighbor, Overland Park. So click there or here, and I'll see you on the other side.